You put them on every morning without thinking, lace them up, slip them on, walk out the door. They are so normal that they have become invisible. But shoes are one of the most consequential inventions in human history. Not the wheel, not fire, not the printing press. Shoes. Because without them, almost everything else becomes dramatically harder. You cannot travel far on cut and bleeding feet. You cannot hunt effectively if every step causes pain. You cannot cross terrain that would destroy unprotected skin. Shoes did not just protect feet, they unlocked movement. And the story of how humans figured that out is stranger and older than almost anyone expects. Here's the first problem. Shoes are made of soft material, leather, plant fiber, animal skin. Soft material does not survive in the archaeological record the way stone or bone does. It rots, it decomposes, it disappears. Which means the physical evidence for early shoes is almost non-existent. Researchers cannot simply dig up a 50,000-year-old sandal and date it. So they had to find another way to trace when shoes appeared, and they found the answer in the most unexpected place imaginable: human feet. In 2005, a physical anthropologist named Eric Trinkhaus published a study that changed what scientists thought they knew about footwear. He wasn't studying shoes at all, he was studying ancient human toe bones. What he found was this. Around 40,000 years ago, something changed in the fossil record. Human toe bones became smaller and more slender. Specifically, the smaller toes. The ones you barely think about. Before 40,000 years ago, those toes were thicker, more robust, built to grip and bear weight the way bare feet need them to. After 40,000 years ago, they weakened. Not because humans were weaker overall, but because those toes were no longer doing the work they used to do. Something was doing it for them. Something on the bottom of the foot. Trinkhaus argued that this skeletal shift was the biological signature of shoe use. The feet were being supported, the smaller toes were being relieved of their grip function, and over generations, bones that aren't used as hard stopped developing as robustly. The shoes had left their mark. Not in the archaeological record, in the skeleton itself. But 40,000 years is probably not the beginning. It is just as far back as the skeletal evidence currently allows us to see. The actual origin of foot protection almost certainly goes further, much further. Consider what early humans were walking on: volcanic rock, desert sand that reaches temperatures lethal to unprotected skin, rocky terrain with edges sharp enough to cut through hide. A human trying to move quickly across ground like that with bare feet is a human who slows down, bleeds, and becomes vulnerable. The motivation to solve this problem did not require genius. It required enough pain and enough deaths to make the solution obvious. Wrap something around your feet. What changed over time was the sophistication of that wrapping. The oldest actual shoe ever recovered was found in Armenia, dating to approximately 5,500 years ago. It is a single leather shoe, stuffed with grass, possibly for insulation or to maintain its shape. It fits a modern foot. Looking at it, the craftsmanship is immediately apparent. It was cut from a single piece of leather. Laced through holes, punched along the edges, shaped deliberately to conform to the foot rather than simply wrapped around it. This was not a first attempt. This was the product of a tradition that had already been developing for a very long time. The grass inside it suggests winters cold enough to require insulation. The careful construction suggests a maker who had done this before, many times. Shoes were already mature technology by the time this one was made. Before leather, there was plant fiber. In dry cave environments in Missouri, researchers found woven fiber sandals dating back nearly 10,000 years. These were not rough approximations of footwear. They were carefully constructed, woven from twisted plant material, designed with distinct soles and toe loops. People had figured out that different constructions served different purposes. Flat woven soles for rocky terrain, thicker constructions for cold ground, wrapped designs for environments where debris and thorns were the primary threat. This was not one invention, it was a continuous, iterative process of solving the same fundamental problem in different environments with different available materials. Different groups arrived at different solutions independently, and then, as groups encountered each other, those solutions spread and merged. Here is something researchers find genuinely remarkable. Shoes are one of the clearest examples in human history of a technology that spread, not because people were told about it, but because the problem it solved was universal. You did not need to speak the same language as someone to understand what they had on their feet. You did not need a written explanation of why it helped. You could simply observe, recognize the advantage, and replicate the solution. Anthropologists call this convergent invention, the same basic technology appearing independently in multiple places because the underlying problem is the same everywhere humans go. Foot protection was invented more than once, in more than one culture, on more than one continent. Because every group of humans that ever walked across rough terrain eventually arrived at the same conclusion. This hurts, and it does not have to. The evolution of shoes after that first breakthrough is really the story of human expansion. You cannot cross a glacier barefoot. You cannot hunt in deep snow without insulated foot coverings. You cannot march an army across hundreds of miles of varied terrain without something protecting the feet of every person in it. Every time humans pushed into new environments, the demands on footwear changed, and humans adapted the technology to match. Inuit peoples developed multi-layered boot systems that managed moisture, insulation, and grip on ice simultaneously. Systems so effective that modern cold-weather boot design still borrows from their principles. Roman soldiers wore sandals specifically engineered for long-distance marching, hobnailed soles for grip, thick leather for durability, open construction to prevent overheating on long campaigns. The engineering was deliberate, tested over thousands of miles of road. There is something worth pausing on here. Somewhere between 40,000 and 100,000 years ago, a human being looked down at their cut and bleeding feet, looked around at what was available, and wrapped something around them. That moment, unremarkable to the person doing it, was the beginning of something that would eventually allow humans to walk to every corner of the planet, to cross ice, to climb mountains, to march through deserts, to go places that bare human feet simply could not go, one wrapped foot at a time. Basically, shoes were not invented by a genius in a workshop. They were invented by someone in pain who decided the pain was optional and turned out to be right.